Hey everybody, welcome. It's Brian from Witch Doctor. Thank you for tuning in. Wanted to do a quick review of the match season in 2024 and just go over kind of how that season went. Right now it's late December 2024, about to come up on New Year, so I wanted to do a quick end of year review. How did things go with all the shooting matches that I did this past year? Share some information, wisdom, and hopefully some things that can enable you to shoot better, improve your shooting, or even get into match shooting if that's something that you're thinking about. All right, so here in the Pacific Northwest United States, in the state of Washington, in the Tacoma University Place area, Seattle area too, we have a pretty vibrant community of shooters. We have both long range and short range bench rest, and so I participated in sort of a mixture of all of those types of matches, and I'll kind of go over those in a little bit more detail here in a minute. But certainly the first set of matches were called group shooting matches at short range. That's typically gets started, in like April or so, and that's when the match season really starts to get revved up. So the first match, first series of matches of the year I had to miss. I was taking a vacation. I haven't had a real vacation in a while, so it was nice to actually get a real vacation. But then the next month, typically these group matches that are sanctioned by the NBRSA occur the first weekend of every month. And that was the Manly Oakley two gun. And I went into that match. That was an interesting match because it started my season. I was starting a little bit late. And I had noticed on the run up that week to the match that the atmosphere was pretty consistent that whole week, that we had pretty consistent temperatures, consistent humidity, barometric pressure was high. And then I looked at the forecast for barometric pressure and saw that it actually dipped really low Saturday morning. So people were practicing from like Wednesday through Friday, and then we started the match Saturday and had the match go through Saturday and Sunday. And so when I saw that, I thought, well, knowing what I know, the data that I've collected, again, everything that I do is data driven. The data that I collected said the tune that you normally get in a high pressure condition is not going to really do that well in a low pressure condition. You kind of have to have either a different powder charge or a different tuner setting, okay? And so I had a tuner on that rifle, and I knew what the tuner settings would be for like the high pressure and low pressure conditions. So essentially I didn't even go and practice anytime Wednesday through Friday. I stopped by, said hi to people, dropped off some of my gear. But when I showed up Saturday morning, all I did was set my tuner at the low pressure setting and started shooting. So what I noticed after the first batch was a lot of people saying, man, I got my rifle in great tune. It was shooting wonderful on, Thursday and Friday. I thought I had a wonderful tune and everything was going to look great. And all of a sudden it fell apart. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because like you tuned in a high pressure setting and you're shooting now in a real low pressure one. I mean, my data has shown that you're not going to, the same tune is not going to really work that well. And so anyway, I essentially won that two gun match. I don't necessarily think because I was the best shooter of the weekend, but I think it was because I came in there with data knowing that, nope, I'm going to need to make the adjustment on the tuner for this low pressure situation. And so right out of the gate, I just started shooting well while everyone else was figuring out that their tune in a high pressure setting or high pressure conditions a few days prior to the match like wasn't working for them. So right off the bat, I think I just gained a strategic advantage when I sort of applied my atmospheric data and my tuner testing to the circumstance. So took that two gun, was really happy with that. And this is the rifle. Again, I think I've displayed this many times on my YouTube and my Patreon. Actually, my Patreon has over 600 videos with lots of details about my rifles and everything else that I use. So I do highly recommend you go to my Patreon. But anyway, this is the light varmint rifle that I've used. Bat Nouveau action, March scope, cedar stock. Flavio trigger, although I put a Sidhe in here and I'm testing that trigger, and so far with the limited testing I've done, that trigger is doing really, really good. So definitely take a look at that trigger too. And then we did a short range score match, which was 100, 200 yard score, where, it's not group where you're trying to get the smallest group. You're trying to get all your bullets within a small hole and trying to touch the X, the center. And so that one, that was the Wally Siebert trophy. And so I used my Schillen DGV rifle with my McMillan Edge stock in that match with a 30 BR. You can see the DGV action and with this March scope. And this is a McMillan Edge stock. And this was the rifle that I used to win this score match for 100, 200 yard score match. So took home the Wally Siebert, which I'm happy about. I think it's my second year in a row winning that trophy. And of course, you see in my background PRP bullets, these are the bullets that I was using for these matches. So for the short range, I use primarily the Joker, sometimes the Diablo. And for score matches with the 30 BR, I use the 30 caliber Voodoo bullets. All do exceptionally well. So great bullets. All right, and then later in the season, we shoot the Sniper King, which is the longest continuous trophy in bench rest history here in the United States. The trophy started in 1944, and you can actually look at this trophy and see, okay, who was the first winner back in 1944, moving forward. And you see a lot of amazing names on here. You see Del Bishop, Jay Young, Don Nielsen, Bill Crosby, Manly Oakley. I mean, just all kinds of amazing. Rick Graham, Larry Bowers, Gary Ocock's on here, Eric Stanton, Lou Murdica, Steve Kostanich, Mustafa Bilal. Just a whole host of, great shooters on here. Again, this is the oldest continuous trophy in bench rest here in the United States. I actually read two history books on bench rest here in the United States, and I think there was some, like one or two trophies maybe earlier than this, but they never continued on. This was kind of like the big, the start to the longest sequential trophy, and it's an annual event. It's an interesting event because you get the trophy if at 200 yards you shoot the smallest 10-shot group. Okay, so it's not, you can win the Ag King where, you have a small aggregate of all these, 200 yards and 100 yards. But if you want to get the Sniper King, which is usually it is the trophy that everyone wants, then you have to shoot the smallest 10-shot group at 200 yards. And so I went ahead and was able to accomplish that. I think my small group was a 252 at 200 yards. Again, that I was using the Joker bullets. I think I did switch to the Diablos at one point, but then switch back to the Joker. So again, if you follow my Patreon, I outline all of these different strategies on when to sort of maximize your precision, and switching bullets is sometimes one of those strategies. So again, I encourage you to go on Patreon to get the full picture of, a lot of the information that I'm really glossing over here right now. And so it was a cool match because Gary Ocock, who's actually on this trophy, was there, and he had the smallest group for a while. I mean, he was the Sniper King for, I think, probably the most of the morning on the last day. And we were going into the afternoon, and I was like, man, I got to do something here, so switch up bullet, try a different power charge. Like, I got to get the small group here because my opportunities are diminishing fast. And Gary right now has the smallest. So I think it was like maybe the first or second match of the afternoon. Bam, just shot tiny little group. Looking at it through the scope, and the spotting scopes looked great. And everyone was like, that's going to be competitive. And finally, when it got on the wall and we took a look at it, it was like, yep, that's 252. It's really hard to shoot smaller than that. So I think most of the competitors pretty much said, okay, yep, we think Brian's going to be the Sniper King. And I've won this trophy before, so I'll have my name on it twice. So that was a great win. I'd say out of all the trophies, I'm this is the one I value the most. So to me, it's kind of like the Stanley Cup, if you will, of like NHL. It's like the trophy you want, you know. Anyway, and then we went into some sort of long range matches, long range shooting, and so this is the rifle that I used for my long range stuff. So we did some 600-yard matches. This is a Ceres stock, Borden action, and a March scope. It's a High Master 10x60, and a Flavio trigger. And so this is the rig that I use for my long range shooting. It's bedded and screwed action. Actually, all my actions are screwed. Some are bedded, some are not. But yeah, with that match, we went in, we actually had the NBRSA national level match. And I was shooting that, and I thought, you know, okay, I'm not doing too bad. I think I'm doing okay. And I ended up shooting a world record. So ended up getting an NBRSA world record for 600 yards. And that was for my light gun score. So here are all the targets that I received the targets back from the records crew, all signed off. They all, I guess, you know, they get the targets, they score them themselves. And if they all agree that, yep, that score is the correct score, then you win the record. So the score committee went ahead and scored these puppies and found, yep, he beat the previous record, which was, again, this is 6 target, 5 shot, so total score of 300 possible. The previous record was 296 with 5 X's. My score was 296 with 11 X's. So I was just more honed in on the X than the last record holder. We had the same score, but I was able to get it on into that bullseye, the X, more often. So took home that world record. So really happy about that. And then finished second overall in the entire match, and then was the champion for light gun score. So took home a national championship for light gun score. Happy about that. A world record. And for the match, the overall match, I took second. So from that match, you know, I learned a lot. You know, I followed my sort of standard tuning procedure. Again, if you join my Patreon or even seen on my YouTube, my video on tuning for centerfire rifles, that's what I did. And I did it at 100 yards, and I did it with 3-shot groups. So anyway, I know a lot of people are going to be very skeptical about that whole procedure, but ended up getting me a championship and a world record. So certainly if you do it right, you follow these methods correctly, use the data to then drive your practice, then you get good results. So anyway, and then we finished out the season with another 600 yard. That wasn't a national event. It was a state championship event. And I was using an old barrel. The barrel was not tuning well. It had 700 and maybe 750 rounds to it, maybe about 800 or so. And it was not tuning well for me. And when I put the chronograph on it, I was getting really outlandish numbers in terms of standard deviations and extreme spreads. And those two things combined, using again the same bullet, same primer weights, all these other things that I do to shrink the variability in the ballistics. I should be getting like single-digit SDs out of it's a 6 BRA was the cartridge that I shot, and it just wasn't shooting. So I pretty much knew I'm going into this event with a barrel that's pretty toasted, but let's give it a shot, see what happens. Didn't do so well. So one of the major things that I learned is, be prepared to, have a fresh barrel for the match. That way, if your barrel goes south, during the preparation for the match, you can quickly swap that, take that sucker off and swap it with a fresh barrel. And so that's a lesson. I've learned that previously, but I was holding out on this one thinking, 750, it might still show some good life. But no, it didn't. It kind of showed all the signs that the barrel was just toast and ended up not doing so well. So another lesson learned. Anyway, so to summarize, key points, again, number one, like learn your lessons. Like I always have a continuous improvement sort of mindset. So, okay, I got to learn that lesson. Don't do that again. Let's get some fresh barrels for that thing. So I don't, walk into a match knowing or suspecting strongly that this barrel is toast. Second thing is really like heavy reliance on the data. I know I've published a lot of my data on shooting forums and other places, and you just the comments I get are frankly ridiculous. You get all these people that try to, I don't know, poke holes or whatever, and it's like I'm sorry, like the data's the data. Unless you show me other data and show me your tests and your experiments and how your data turns out and your methods, well, I'm just not going to believe you. I'm not going to take you seriously. So I think that was the major factor in my shooting was, have confidence in the science, have confidence in the way that the scientific method produced the data that then informed my practice for shooting. I'd say that was probably the biggest factor in terms of, being able to win the trophies and whatnot. And definitely like not listening to the people that just put odd or bizarre things on those forums. Like Inaccurate Shooter is one of the forums where I'm just done with that. I've kind of gone off some other forums and just said, no, you guys, these forums are no good. So what I'm doing now is kind of what the contemporary shooters are doing is they're getting on Patreon pages. So if you haven't yet gotten onto a Patreon page, it is definitely worth it to check out, because what I'm noticing is you get a lot more really good information, and the Patreon page owner gets to sort of moderate, whatever odd, bizarre, or inappropriate posts that other users put on. And so it's a much, much better sort of discussion with, an expert level shooter than going onto a forum and getting, misled by someone who doesn't even really know what they're doing and is just doesn't like you or whatever. Anytime you put your name out there and people know you get these people that try to bug the crap out of you all the time and intentionally badger you essentially. So you see that a lot on those forums. So again, that's why I'm totally off of those forums now. Inaccurate Shooter, done. It's in the no-fly zone. Sticking with Patreon. Again, I have 600 plus videos on Patreon going over details, nuances, how I do load development. I mean, everything is on there. Whatever I do with the shooting, I put on there. YouTube is small percentage of it. So anyway, yeah, that's the lesson learned is, get off those forums, go to the data, let the data guide your practice. You'll end up having, excellent results, because again, it's probabilistic. It's not someone's opinion. It's, it's probability. And when you've used that data to then improve your shooting practices, you've increased your probability of doing well in matches. So I'd say that was another key thing. And then another thing is performance improvement mindset. So just continuing to recognize the mistakes you made, recognize, oh shoot, I didn't go in this one with a fresh barrel. I should have. That's a mistake. Let's not make that again. So just constantly evaluating your own performance. I tell people it's like the NFL. If you look at, watch football, look at what they do. As soon as they hit the sideline, they have a tablet in their hand. What do you think they're doing with that tablet? They're evaluating their performance, and they're oh shoot, I could have done this, or I maybe could have done that better. And they're constantly in a state of improvement. And that's sort of what the mindset that I take with this is, how can I constantly improve? So I'd say, those kind of are the key factors that led to what I would call, a pretty darn good season of shooting for me. Very happy to have taken home again the Sniper King Trophy, world record, national light gun score championship, even the short range score, trophy match here, the Wally Seabird, all those great, tough matches where a lot of people come out to win that trophy, because they want that trophy. So anyway, again, please come to Patreon. You'll see it in my YouTube stuff here where I say, please join my Patreon. You can follow that link, or just simply go to Patreon's website, type in my name, and bam, it'll show up. You can be an unpaid member, but you won't see much. It's the paid members that get to see the full array of all the videos and posts and everything like that. We have a really good community there where we're all very proactive and wanting to do better, and so there's a completely different tone there than you see on like forums like Inaccurate Shooter, or even that Bentress and Gunsmithing Facebook forum where people just kind of take it south and just totally tank the posts, and are, they're badgering or they're inappropriate or whatnot. In the Patreon, no, we're you could tell everyone is really invested. The sharing of knowledge and information, and very intellectually honest. If they know, like, okay, I have no data on this, it's just my conjecture and my opinion. People are generally stating that. So to me, it's a really good environment to be in, and I hope to see you there soon. All right. So shoot small. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. And let's go into 2025 and kick some butt. All right. See ya.